We are going to speak tonight a little bit more briefly than we have before because the um, particular topic that we're going to be speaking about tonight involves primarily the process of writing a cover letter. And a lot of people are very surprised when this topic is brought up because it's not really even considered by many people, as you'll see from some of the things I bring up to talk about this evening, but it's one of the most important things in the job hunt and professional development series. So let's review kind of where we are today. We've talked about the resume and we've talked about LinkedIn, what I call foundational documents, along with what we're going to talk about tonight, the cover letter. So we have these three topics that comprise what I call foundational documents. Why? Because you're most likely going to do them for every job to which you apply. The resume and LinkedIn, you're probably not going to change a whole lot, but the cover letter you will, and there's a very good reason why you're going to want to do that and write one and so forth, and we'll get to that in just a second. Next Wednesday and the Wednesday after, we're going to be devoting 2 full sessions to the process of preparing for the interview. So let's get right into it. And as I said, I think I said a moment ago, this is going to be a shorter training module tonight than we've had in the past 2 weeks because this is a very direct topic, very simple. I don't have a lot of slides like I've had before, but we're going to spend a little bit of time on each one talking about them. So let's get into it. I want to just review what we've spoken about previously, that the job hunt and professional development is part of a series of first impressions that you're trying to make in the workplace. And tonight, we're going to talk about the first step in those series of first impressions. And that is the writing of the cover letter. We haven't talked about that so far. Some people say, well, why didn't we start with that? There's a reason we didn't start with it, because it's going to vary from job to job to job. The cover letter, if it's written well, the cover letter is going to get the resume read. And if the resume is written well, it's going to encourage the reviewer, the HR specialist, whoever, to go look at your LinkedIn profile. If all of those foundational documents do what they're supposed to do, that will bring you in for the interview. And then if you do very well in the interview, and we'll talk about how to do well in the interview in the next 2 Wednesdays, then of course that gets you the job. So this is the process, more or less, I would say 90% of the time or more. Unless your family relative owns the company to which you're applying, which is a whole different issue at that point. This is the process by which most successful candidates for an opening follow in order to get that position that they're seeking. So tonight we're going to talk about the cover letter, because whereas the resume and LinkedIn profile tend to be rather set, the cover letter is a lot more static. It's a lot more subjective than the resume and LinkedIn, which are meant to be very objective. So let's talk about what goes into it and why it's a big deal. So what is a cover letter? Number one, it's something that's sent with your resume. It's not a part of the resume. It's not one big document. It is not that. Do not put a resume and a cover letter together in the same document. Don't do that. But it's a document sent with your resume that provides specific information in a summary format on your skills and on your experience that are pertinent to the posting to which you are applying. Pertinent to the posting. I'll get to that. I'll get to all this in just a moment. It allows employers to do something that a lot of job applicants aren't aware of, and that is to use the cover letter as a screening document. They use it to screen applicants, and they use it to screen applicants in a number of ways. For example, many of you might be surprised to find out that as far as HR people are concerned, most people speak like they write. Let me repeat that. They speak like they write. And so if they look at a well-written cover letter, they're going to make assumptions about you that if you write well, Well, gee, you must speak well. And so the issue of communication, can this person communicate? Can they speak well? Can they write well? Those initial impressions have already been answered by a well-written cover letter. It also gives you an opportunity to show your creative side in the writing of the cover letter, the way in which you demonstrate your writing skills, the way in which you emphasize things the resume can't. The resume needs to be a very passionless, objective um, kind of document. That's why when we talked about the resume, I said then you cannot say things in the resume like expertly and with great adroitness provided wonderful customer service. You can't say very subjective things like that. You have to be very objective. But in the cover letter, you can be a little bit more subjective in talking about yourself in ways the resume can't. The cover letter allows you to express yourself in ways the resume can't. Now, there's a lot of reasons why if you go to a job posting, and let's say you find something on Indeed, or you find it on Craigslist or wherever you find it, doesn't matter. If they say send resume to, and then they give some email, and you think to yourself, wow, I just have to send my resume, no problem. There are a lot of companies that play a little game with this. They tell you to send in your resume. They don't ask you to send in a cover letter, but just because they ask you to only send in a resume, do not only send in a resume. They play a little game. Why? Because if you write one, even though they didn't ask you for one, and you send it in, it shows that you care enough to do extra work. And if you're willing to make that impression, they can draw from that this person can over deliver. They can do something they were not asked to do. And they did it well, and so forth. And this gives you an opportunity to go above and beyond. And the fact of the matter is, even when asked for one, 60% of people that apply for a position don't send one in anyway. So you're going to stand out because you're only among that roughly 40% that do send in one. And I guarantee you that for most employers, if you send an email applying for a posting, applying for a job or whatever, and you send a resume and a cover letter, 70% of the time or more, the cover letter is the first document read. So they're reading yours. They're not able to read a cover letter nobody else provided. So you already stand out in their mind as having gone above and beyond what they asked for. Now, by the way, if the posting says, do not send in a cover letter, do not send in a cover letter. It's that simple. But if they don't say that, send one in. It shows that you can do all this kind of stuff. We talked about communicating in writing and what the impressions that gives of you being able to express yourself and be communicative in other ways. It also shows that you've done your research. You've gone to their website. Maybe you've gone to their LinkedIn profile, the company's LinkedIn profile, and their website, and you've learned stuff about the company. And you've used this research in your cover letter. For example, you might want to say something like, after I found out that the Ivanov Corporation, let me change that. Now, when I found out that the Cedarmore Corporation earned the J.D. Power Award for community excellence, I decided that was the kind of company I wanted to work for, and now I'm applying to your corporation. So that would be an idea. And they would say, well, how did they know about that? Well, yeah, we put it on our website. Oh, wow. That means they went to our website and actually read it. Nobody reads our website. And so they get all excited about things like that. So if you found out stuff about them that you can use in the letter that shows you've done research, that's a real big plus in their mind. And then having written a well-written cover letter and having made sure everything's spelled correctly, you've done a spell check, you've done a grammar check, everything looks really, really good. You can show them that you are capable of doing polished, finalized work. And not everybody pays attention to detail nowadays. And employers are very happy when they get a cover letter that shows them that this person not only cared enough to do extra work and over delivered and communicates well, but they can deliver a final product that you, but also they can be very happy with and very proud of. So this is what a cover letter is. This is why you should write one. Now, a cover letter is a very important document. It needs to get to the right person. So you're most likely not going to do a to whom it may concern without putting down an address block of to whom it's supposed to go. And also, if um, you want to tell them how you found out about the opportunity. Did you see it in Indeed? Did you see it on Craigslist? Did you see it in Career Builder? Did you have somebody from the company refer you? That's very powerful, by the way. If you know someone in the company who referred you to the job and encouraged you to apply, you want to say that in the letter. Because remember, these HR people, for the most part, don't know who you are. But if you all of a sudden say, I'm applying to the position of marketing specialist, and Dr. Sheila Lyle recommended that I apply to this job. Well, all of a sudden, I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't know you from Adam, but I know Dr. Sheila, and boy, if she recommended that you apply, that's a really good thing to know. So I go to Dr. Sheila, and I bypass all the time and expense of having to go search for you online, because Dr. Sheila can give me like an in-house, in-company recommendation. Yeah, that Ivanov guy, he's okay. We should hire him. That's really good. So if someone in the company recommended you, you want to mention that someone in your letter. It's a very powerful reference. The letter also needs to express your interest in the organization. See, people are often in HR, they're often wondering, why should I hire you? Why you? Why not someone else? What is it about you? And one of the things they're asking themselves is, does this person really want to work for us? And if you can answer that via your enthusiasm and you're showing your interest in the organization because you went on their website, you went on their LinkedIn profile, and you read up all about them, and you know stuff that you can say in your letter that shows that you're enthusiastic about the organization and you really want to, start a career or move to them from a midlife career change or whatever it happens to be. Show your interest in the organization in the letter. Also, this is an opportunity, as we mentioned before, where you can showcase things about yourself. You can talk about your motivation and attitudes and interpersonal traits in a way that you cannot talk about these in either the resume or LinkedIn. So that's why I call the cover letter the Hopey Dreamy document, because it kind of helps you give words and expression to things that don't apply and don't really belong anywhere else. So you can showcase your motivation, attitudes, traits, specific skills here, and get them kind of write the letter in such a way that it becomes very tantalizing for them, that they're going to want to move to your resume, that they're going to want to look at your LinkedIn profile and so forth to find out more about you, because look at how excited they are. Look at how enthusiastic they are. Look at how they did their research. They're going to notice all these things in your cover letter. Okay, let's move on and talk about what the cover letter is comprised of, how it's composed, and so forth. The cover letter really contains 3 and only 3 paragraphs. 3 and only 3 paragraphs. Anything other than that, psychologically, when they open a letter and looks like it has 5 or 6 paragraphs in it, HR people tend to psychologically think there's a lot here. I don't know if I want to read this. But if you put it in 3 paragraphs, studies have shown they're more likely to read it. So what are those 3 paragraphs? The first paragraph is about you. The second paragraph is about them. And the third paragraph, which is usually the shortest of the 3, is kind of a thank you. I'll be calling you. Here's how you contact me. Hope to hear from you soon. Kind of, I call it a thank you paragraph, and it talks about next steps. So it's 1, 2, 3. That's it. This is the cover letter in 3 easy paragraphs. Now, we're going to talk about how we put the rest of it together. Let's start with number 1. Paragraph number 1 is about you. This is where you're going to introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Jonathan Ivanov, and I am looking to do a career change and move from account management to marketing staff at your firm, something like that. You want to also mention that you found what specific position you're talking about. You can write a cover letter, by the way, a letter of inquiry where you introduce yourself and then you say, I would like to work for your company. Is there anything open that I could apply to? Because you can say, I went to the website, didn't see anything, but I certainly would like to know if there are any opportunities. You know, when you go to a website and you look for stuff, you know, Indeed, Career Builder, Monster, whatever, if you go to these different job posting platforms and you don't see a job posting there, especially one that you would like to apply for, that doesn't mean they don't have any. It means that they might be shorthanded. It means they may not have put it up yet. It means that nobody applied for it and they took it down for a while to figure out what's going on. There might be a lot of reasons why they don't have a posting up, but it doesn't always necessarily mean they don't need that, they don't have that position available. So that's why sometimes sending a blind cover letter in, just kind of fishing, you know, you're fishing for ideas, you're fishing for any future openings. You can ask them about that. But if you're actually applying to a specific posting that you saw someplace, you want to mention what that posting is and where you saw it and things like that. And of course, if you were referred by someone, you want to mention that person. This is all in the first paragraph. You're talking about yourself, what you're applying for, where you found it. You also want to then summarize, and heavy emphasis on the word summarize. You can't go on and on because the cover letter, like the resume, needs to be only 1 page long. Don't go into a second page. It won't be read. Most HR people would wonder why you can't be succinct and write something that can fit on 1 page. So you got to keep it to 1 page. That's why you can't say everything, and you're going to have to really kind of summarize your key skills in order to kind of answer the implicit question, why I'm perfect for this job, you know, why you should hire me. Okay, so that's all really in the first paragraph. And then at the end of the first paragraph, someplace at the end of the first paragraph, you want to make the statement, my resume is attached. Don't use the exclamation point. That's just me. Or, you know, my resume is attached for your further consideration, something like that. That's the first paragraph. This is what you're going to say. And I'll show you an example coming up. So hang tight, we'll get there. Paragraph number 2. So now you talked about yourself. Now you're going to talk about them. Remember, they're asking themselves the question, what do I do with this person? What should I do with them? Why do they want to work for us? What are they applying for? Why should I consider them? Why are they unique? Why should we hire them? So you want to try and answer a lot of those kind of questions in the second paragraph. You're focusing your attention on them. There should not be a lot of sentences in this paragraph that begin with I, not a lot of them. There can be some sentences that begin with I've done this and I've done that, but you got to relate it back to them. So in the second paragraph, you want to point out your key skills. I bring to this position the ability to use Tableau and Excel with formulas and things like that so that I can do data analysis. Or I know the following programming languages that you're looking for in this position. Or I have 20 years of customer service experience and a lot of patience in dealing with the public. So you want to talk up front about the kind of skills that you have that you bring to the table. Number 2, or actually, I guess our next post is address the posting. In addition to pointing out your key skills, you're only going to point out those key skills that you think address the job posting. What are they looking for? Go back and look at the job posting. Oh, you said to yourself at some point in time, I really want to have this job. I think I'll apply to it. Great. But they're looking for certain things. It's not about what you're looking for. It's about what they're looking for. So if you have certain skills that they're talking about, mention them. If you have certain abilities that they're saying you're going to have to do this, that, and the other thing, then you better talk about how you have done this, that, and the other thing. So in other words, you need in the second paragraph to talk about how you fit what they're looking for that they have described in the posting. Now, number three, um, keep in mind, as I've said before, they are constantly asking this question, why do you want to work for us? Is this a stop in your career for a while? Are you going to be here and then move on? Are you looking to make a career with our company? Do you look like you have the kind of skills and abilities and things that will fit in here with us? We do a lot of community um, service stuff as part of our outreach to the community. I don't see a lot of community service stuff on your resume. I wonder if we would want to hire this person. So again, look at the posting and make sure that you not only address it in this paragraph, but you're also either implicitly or explicitly answering the question they're raising. Why do you want to work for us? That's where the issue of enthusiasm comes in, and motivation, wanting to work for them, and all of that kind of thing. I've mentioned this before, talking about what you bring to the position, and above all, try and express your enthusiasm for the company. I really want to work for the Ivanov Corporation, and here's why. And in order to do that, I bring these skills here, and and so forth and so on. So this is going to be one in the job hunt process. This paragraph in particular is going to be the most subjective thing you're going to write. Almost everything else needs to be very objective. This paragraph is going to end up being very subjective. Now, um, after you've thought about what you're going to put down, just kind of use this as a sanity check. So you go to Indeed and you see a job posting and you go, oh, I really want to apply to that job. Well, here's the posting. Usually there's a summary area, usually, not all the time. And the summary area is going to address the posting title. So remember what I said earlier, I'm applying for the position in, which is usually what the posting is called, marketing specialist. The next two paragraphs, the second paragraph rather, has to address the section that lists the duties and the section, if it exists, that lists the skills. So duties and responsibilities, you're going to do this, 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 and this. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in your second paragraph, one of the things you're going to say is something like, well, you're looking for someone who can do 1 and 2. Well, I did those in my last job. And you're looking for someone who can do 3, and I'm doing that in my current job. And you're looking for someone who can do number 4 in the bullet point. Well, I haven't done that yet, but here's how I would do it. And you're looking for people that have these skills. Well, I've used Excel before, and I've done mail merges with Word, and I know how to use Adobe Creative Suite. And I don't know how to use PowerPoint, but I do know how to use Prezi. So you're addressing these things directly in the letter. Now, the reason I put this down is when the employer opens your letter and reads it, what they do not want to see is a paragraph that says something like, oh, I'm a hard worker, prove it, and I'll show up on time. You better. I expect that of everybody, not just you. And I'm going to be I'll get along with everybody. Well, again, you better be, because I expect that from everyone. So you're talking about nonsense, and I've seen these in letters, and it's almost like the person is begging the company to hire them. You don't want to sound like you're groveling, so don't do it. But what you do want to sound like are these things in the these things in the posting. Man, you've got them. You've been mastering them for the last 10, 15, 20 years, whatever it's been. You've got a handle on every single one. You've done it. You've done it here. You've done it there. My resume will prove this to you, and so forth. You want to address the job posting in your cover letter. That's what you're applying to. That's what you need to convince them and do their job for them, that you know what's going on and you can handle this better than anybody else can. So it's really important to address the job posting and not anything else. All right, then we have the final paragraph, what I like to call the thank you paragraph that delineates the next steps. So this is an opportunity for the person, you applying to a job, to kind of show appreciation, to be a little bit humble. I want to thank you very much for taking the time to read this letter. It means a lot to me, and I think it will mean a lot to you when we have the opportunity to sit down and have an interview in a few weeks. And so you show appreciation. You reaffirm your contact information, which will be at the top of the letter. We'll see an example of that in just a second. So you reaffirm your contact information, when they can get you. Like, in other words, you may want to say, I'm available for a phone call anytime during the day after 1 o'clock, or I'm available for an email any time of the day, or something like that. You don't want them calling you at work on your cell when it's an inconvenient time. So if you have times when you cannot take a call, then you basically will want to affirm to them when you're available for a phone call. Um, I recommend that you be a little bold, and in your thank you paragraph, the third paragraph, go a little bit out on a limb and say, I'll be calling you in 2 weeks to set up an interview and to see what time would be good for you and I to get together. Now, some people go, oh my God, can I really say that? Well, it's not that you can or can't, but I'll tell you that a lot of employers like the idea that some applicants, quite frankly, have the courage to say that, and they get a big kick out of it. So you must also be aware of what the application deadlines are, because if today is, what is today, July 28th, right? Or 29th. If today is whatever day it is, but the application deadline isn't closing till September 1st, a lot of companies don't start interviewing until the application deadline is closed. So you wouldn't want to say, I'll be calling you next week by August 6th to arrange an interview. That's a little bit bold, maybe a little bit too bold. Just be aware of when deadlines are and things like that. But this is pretty much what the third paragraph is all about. Now, at the end of the letter, there's a little bit of a challenge. At the end of the letter, especially if you're going to send this electronically, you can't sign it. So here's a way in which you can present at the end of the letter a finished signature block. And it's very easy. You'll begin with sincerely or regards, or however you feel comfortable doing that. And then you'll type your name twice. Joe applicant, next line, Joe applicant. The middle line, the first Joe applicant line, that's where people usually sign. You usually sign between sincerely and then your typed name, but you can't sign it. So there are these things called signature fonts. Word has them, everybody has them. They may have different names for them, but I recommend Brush Script, the font called Brush Script. It looks like this. And if you put it around 20 point or so, it gives a nice finished look to the letter instead of just leaving it unsigned or something like that. And of course, at the very end, since there is an email attached to the resume, you can say attachment or enclosure or something like that. And when you put all this together, you get a letter that is called a cover letter. It used to be called a letter of introduction because you'd be sending it by mail, snail mail. Decades ago, you'd be sending a letter like this to people who'd never met you. So it was called a letter of introduction. And it was the cover for your resume, which you also sent in a letter. But it would look like this because this was the standard format for a business letter, and has been the standard format for a business letter for about 100 years. So this is the way letters are written. And you can see at the top, you've got your address, your city, state, phone, usually on that line. Then you've got your phone and then your email address. You can also put right under your email address your LinkedIn profile if you want. That's becoming more common. Notice at the top, your name does not go up there. Why? because on a business letter, your name goes at the bottom. And there's the signature block at the bottom. Then you have a date, again, common business letter formatting. And then you have, so this is up here, we could say this is your address block. Now, this is their address block. So the top one is the from, and the bottom one is the to. So this is going to them. But you want to really find out to whom it's going. And again, remember what I said earlier about some companies not asking for a cover letter, but they do it as a game to see if you'll do one. The other part of that game they play is they don't tell you to whom the letter needs to go, because they want to see if you can figure that out. And if you've got the wherewithal to figure it out and put it down on this letter, and they see that, they're going to go, we didn't tell them to send it to me, but look at that. They ended up sending it to me. They found out who the letter needs to go to. That's pretty cool. Now, not every company plays that game, but some do. And they don't tell you to whom the letter must be addressed. So again, there's this wonderful invention. It's called the phone. Pick it up, turn it on, call the company, ask to be connected with HR, and say, I'm applying to this position. I'm writing a cover letter for it. I want to know to whom I need to address the letter. The odds are you might end up talking to the very person who's going to see your email. And all of a sudden, you've impressed them with the fact that you picked up that phone and you called because you needed to find out who the letter needs to go to so you could do it the right way. And believe me, I know HR people in Fortune 500 companies all across the region. They are very impressed by people who do this. That's why for some it's a game. For some, they just don't put it down because they didn't think of it. But do this. Find out to whom the letter needs to go. Then you're going to take the name, including their title, by the way. If you look at the address block, you can see it says Mr., Ms., Doctor, whoever, and then their title. Their title isn't doctor or whatever. Their title is, associate vice president or, CEO or whatever their title happens to be. But if they have a title before their name, like I would never think of sending a letter to Sheila Lyle just as Ms. Sheila Lyle. Because if you find out they have a title in front of their name, a lot of people worked hard to get that PhD or whatever that degree is that they have a title by, and it's respect that dictates that you should use that title. So you should never, if you find out that someone has a title in front of their name, use it. It's respect, it's recognition, it's also the way things are done. So then you're going to come down and you're going to say, dear, and then you're going to use their title, Mr., Ms., Dr. Ivanov, Dr. Maxwell, dear Dr. Maxwell. You're never going to say their full name. You would never type out, dear Father Jonathan Ivanov, or dear Dr. Jonathan Ivanov. That's odd. We don't talk that way in English. I mean, we don't say when we meet something, oh, Dr. Jonathan Ivanov. Hi, it's usually Dr. Ivanov. If they know me, if you know the person to whom you're sending the letter, you can say, dear Jonathan. But more likely than not, you're not going to know the person to whom you're sending the letter. Therefore, it becomes a little bit more formal than what you might be used to, but it is what is common in business letter correspondence. I hope that's clear. So then we have each of those paragraphs that we've been talking about. So the first paragraph, the position you're applying to, where and when and who, from who you heard it about. Summarize some primary accomplishments that qualify you for the position, such as the degree you have. If you're applying for a marketing position and you have a marketing degree, you're going to want to say that, I've got a bachelor's in marketing from Adelphi or from wherever, and I've been working out in the marketing field for 15 years and stuff like that. So you're kind of putting your bona fides down in that first letter to set the stage. I'm someone who already has qualifications for this position. In the email, you'll find my resume attached. Thank you. So then you go on to the second paragraph, and this is where the most highly subjective part of your job hunt process is going to be this paragraph right here, where you tell them why you're interested in the position, what you bring to the position, how valuable you can be for the position, how you're most qualified for the position. All of that stuff goes in paragraph number 2. And then you can end that paragraph, as I've just shown, my skills and my experiences and my blah, blah, blah will be a great addition to the Ivanov Corporation. And I look forward to fulfilling the role of marketing specialist, something like that. Third paragraph, that's your thank you paragraph that we've been talking about. Thank you very much for considering taking the time to consider my letter. I really appreciate that. You can reach me at the contact information above. I can take phone calls anytime from 9 to 1 or after 1 o'clock, whatever, or in the evenings, or you can text me. You got to make clear when they can contact you, because you don't want to be in the middle of a meeting in a room where your boss is, your current boss, and all of a sudden your phone goes off and you have to miss the call. You really don't want to do that. So how they can contact you and talking about it, I'd like to call in a few weeks to set up an interview with you. Then your signature block at the bottom, and then enclosure or attachment, either one. And this, everything left justified, nothing in bold, but everything left justified in kind of the way you see it here. This is a good cover letter. And depending on your content and the way you focus it, this could be a great cover letter and something that impresses them for all the right reasons and keeps them reading. Hey, this is good. Let's take a look at their resume. Oh, that's really good. Let's look at LinkedIn. Boy, you got to get this person in right now. We need to interview him or her or whoever right now. This is what we're looking for. This is who we're looking for. Let's not waste any time. I know HR people that respond to stuff like this in that way. And even though the deadline for closing of the position might be September 1st, you know what? If you fulfill everything they're looking for, if you're the it person, they may not wait. They just may not. And I've known that to happen as well. So this is what a cover letter is. And this is why when you're in the job hunt and you find a posting that you're really, really excited about and you want to apply to it, don't just slap something together and think that any letter is gonna make a difference. Probably not, has been my experience for the last 13 years of dealing with employers at Adelphi. And I find that what they like is someone who takes the time to actually craft a document that's well written, that addresses the points, that makes a case. You're selling yourself here. You're selling yourself, you're marketing yourself. I know to some people, they get very nervous when they hear that, but that's exactly what you're doing here. And if you do it well, like we just talked about, then this could be something that, again, captures their attention, keeps them focused on you, and encourages them to continue reading. And that is what a cover letter is supposed to do. Okay, well, any questions? I said this would be a little bit short tonight because the topic kind of lends itself to that kind of a format. But one other thing, by the way, and I've heard this from HR people, how many of you, by a show of hands or a thumbs up or something like that here in Zoom, how many of you have applied to a job and never heard back? How many of you have applied to a job and never heard back? You can go down to reactions and you can give me one of these thumbs up like that, or do a raise your hand or something like that. So a lot of you, it looks like, have done exactly that. You've applied someplace and you've never heard back. From what HR people tell me, the reason you never heard back is you either didn't have a cover letter or they didn't like your cover letter. Because if they got into it and got that far and didn't like what they were reading, they weren't going to read the rest. So that's why the cover letter as a document needs to be professional, polished, error-free. I mean, is everything that you can think of according to that format that I just showed you. And by the way, if you remember that link that I provided at the first session that took you to Adelphi's website with resume examples, PDFs. If you go back the cookie trail, you'll get to the page which has cover letters and resumes on it. You can drill down and look at cover letters, and it talks more about that there too. Um, so that resource is available to you. But the cover letter, this is why I say, and this is why I spend tonight on it. A lot of people don't consider it as being something important, and so that's why I want you to consider it. I want you to understand that to an HR person, it can be very important. Okay, I can drop the link in the chat. Absolutely, I will have to go get it because I thought I had this up. So give me 1 second to do that. Well, might be about 6 or 7 seconds. I'm almost there. Okay, here we go. And here we go. And there's the link on Adelphi's website that you can go take a look at for resumes, and then you can drill down and look at the PDFs for that, or cover letters, and you can drill down and look at the PDF example for that. It's very similar to what I just showed you. So if you're looking for a template, that's what you'll be able to go back and see. Okay, we finished a little bit early. I do have time for questions, and I'd be happy to answer any if you have some. You're very welcome. Okay. So next week I have homework for you all. I have homework for you all. We're going to be talking about interviewing, and we're going to divide it as you've seen in the outline. There's going to be 2 parts to interviewing. Interview 1, interview 2, but this is how it's really divided up. Next week is going to be everything you need to do before you actually step foot into the HR office for the actual interview. So I call it the day before. So it's all the stuff you're going to prepare to do before you go in. That's next week. The week after that, we're going to be talking about what happens when you do go into the HR office to actually do the interview, and you're sitting down at the desk and all the small chit chat is done and you have to start answering questions. What to do then. But in the meantime, I want you to consider a question that I'm going to ask you now. This is your homework. I want you to consider the question, and you can write this down. Tell me about yourself. 4 words that strike fear and terror into the heart of most job applicants. Tell me about yourself. Okay. Now, I want you to think of an answer to that. But here's part of the homework. Ready? In your answer, you cannot tell me anything that I already know about you from your resume. Now, what do I already know about you? I know your name. I know where you live, if you put that down. I know where you went to school. I know what your history, your applicant history is. I know all kinds of stuff like that. So I don't want to see, oh, hi, well, my name is Patricia Hobson, and I'm a this and that, and I went to this school, and I know all that already. See that? I know that. So when they say, tell me about yourself, you're sitting there going, well, wait a minute. I thought, doesn't that answer the question? Not really. They already know a lot about you. And if they went to LinkedIn, and if they went to find you on Facebook and other places, which sometimes they do if they like you, then they know a lot about you. But the question really means, so when they say, tell me about yourself, it really means, tell me what I don't know about you. Tell me what I should know about you. Tell me what I need to know about you, So if the cover letter is the Hopi Dreamy document, this is the Hopi Dreamy question. And I'll give you an example. A couple of years ago in the internship preparation seminar at Adelphi, where we teach all this stuff and much more, I told the students in preparation for this module next week, prepare an answer to this question. And some of the kids were very surprised when they would start off going, oh, well, my name is Joe Smith and I'm a senior in marketing. Stop. That's not what I'm looking for. Next. Stop. That's not what I'm looking for. Next. We got to this young woman who was a nursing student. And she began something like this. Well, I'm a person that's very passionate about nursing because when I was 5 years old, I contracted this deadly disease and I had to go to the hospital and I almost died. But if it weren't for the nurses that were so compassionate and caring and nursed me back to health, well, by the time she was done with this 2 minute speech, half the class is in tears because she's talking about this incredible thing that happened to her. Not once did she mention her name, her major, the school she went to, or anything like that. What she talked about was her passion for nursing. It came through beautifully in that question. And in stunned silence, I'm like looking around, and all the other students are looking at her. Some were crying because she went into details about this disease or whatever it was that she had, and how she was in the hospital off and on for like 2 years. And the nurses were the big difference in her life. And she decided when she was a little girl that she wanted to become a nurse. And here she is sitting as a junior or a senior in my class, about to become one and fulfill her dream from when she was a little girl. That's what they're looking for. So if you have the opportunity to tell them about your passions, they know your name, they know where you live, they know all that stuff. Don't repeat that stuff. You're wasting their time. Tell them what they don't know about you. Tell them what's special about you, tell them the heart questions, the things that mean most to you, your dreams, your hopes, where you hope to be, what you'd like to do with your life, things like that. That's what you want to do. That's what you want to do and nothing else. Don't tell me your name. I'm going to interrupt you and I'm going to go on to the next person. Don't do that. Don't tell me your name. Don't tell me anything, but tell me about your hopes and your dreams and who and what you are and why you are who and what you are, and those kind of things that you can't put down on a cover letter or a resume or a LinkedIn profile. You may be able to put this down in LinkedIn. This could the answer to this question, if it's really done well. This could be your about or your summary story in LinkedIn. This could be that, that could be that. So, and if you start to repeat it and they go, yeah, I read about this in LinkedIn. And I says, yes, I put it down in LinkedIn because it's so important to me. And I would love to share it with you again. And they're never going to say no. So that's homework. And we won't get to that question until 2 weeks from now, but I want you to work on it. Now, I also want you to consider this. This is not something that you want to do, answering questions. This is not something you want to do off the top of your head. You don't, because when you go into those rooms and you sit down across from the desk from someone and so forth, it's nervous time. And you really want this job, and sometimes the mind is going ahead of the mouth, or vice versa. And you just don't want to leave things to chance. So what you might want to do with this assignment, this homework assignment, is write this out like a speech and then memorize it. And if you memorize it, so you're talking and it's coming out of your mouth like this, you're going to look confident and you're going to look competent, because you can recite this little answer with a smile on your face, looking like you're just, for all the world to see, you're enjoying this story that you're telling them. And the impression that makes is they're sitting back, and you can tell the body language of an HR person. If they start sitting back and they're just listening and little smiles on their face, they're loving it. They're taking in every second of it because that's exactly what they want to hear. Okay, so I hope this isn't too much. Have fun with it. This is not a graded assignment, but I want you to understand the dynamic that's taking place if you get this far. Because remember, if you get this far, if you get to the interview, which means they liked your cover letter, your resume, your LinkedIn profile, if you get this far, and not everyone does, they already think that you're a possible hire. They've already come to that point in their thinking that you're a possible hire. You now have to convince them. You've got to drive it home with these answers, and that's what we're going to spend the next 2 Wednesdays talking about: how to make another good first impression when they meet you, how to answer questions in such a way that you're going to make a fantastic first impression, and they're finally going to hire you. All right. Okay, everybody. Thank you. We're almost, well, I still got time for answers. Questions, if anybody has a question.
I wanted
Mile.
quickly add that I went on an interview this week, and that was the very first question that they asked me was that same exact question. And also on the bottom of the cover letter, it said enclosure. So I was just wondering what you meant by the word enclosure in caps.
That usually means in old uh, business parlance, enclosure meant in the envelope that I just sent you. There's two things enclosed. There's the cover letter you're reading, and there's another enclosure, and that would be the resume. For a email, the better word actually is attachment.
Okay.
So they detach the cover letter, they read it, they're reminded at the bottom of that document that there is something else. Don't forget to look for my resume. It's also attached to the email I just sent you.
Okay. Thank you.
Congratulations on the interview, by the way. We hope to hear wonderful things about you being hired.
Me too.
Yeah, that's a prayerful thing to keep in mind. Amen. Okay, everybody, if there are no other questions.
I have a question.
Okay, Dr. Harris.
Yes. So about the cover letter again, if you're sending it electronically, do you send it as an attachment or you put the body of the cover letter in your email?
That's a good question. Thank you for asking it because I didn't cover that in the presentation. There are two minds on this. One is that you take the first paragraph of the cover letter and you use that paragraph and the salutation, dear Dr. Maxwell. And then you take the first paragraph and that's as the body of the email. And then you do your sincerely and your signature block at the bottom. And you change it slightly because you can say in that paragraph, my cover letter and my resume are attached here. I look forward to hearing from you, something like that. And then there are some people that say, put the whole letter in the email itself. Most HR people don't prefer that. I don't know why, they just don't. They've told me don't have them do that. So
okay.
I can guess the reasons, but I don't want to speculate. They just like having a letter because they want to see the whole thing. They want to see the whole impression of the document, the business letter.
So your email would be the first paragraph, and then your cover letter would not repeat the first paragraph again.
Oh, no, it would. It would. Yeah, the cover letter is still the whole thing, but you're going to copy out of the cover letter. You're going to copy the first paragraph into the email.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
Dr. Harris, the glory of the Lord is showing behind you. I've got this.
I know. I'm sorry.
The Lord is transfiguring on Mount Zion here,
I know.
Mount Tabor.
I know. It's beautiful. And it's,
it is.
And it's sunset. So sorry.
Oh, wonderful. That's
sorry
really
about
cool.
that.
Okay. Any other questions out there? Okay. If you have a question that occurs after these sessions are over, we can always maybe have some time at the beginning of the next sessions to cover them. I know sometimes questions always occur. You're sleeping, you wake up 3:30 in the morning. Oh, I wanted to ask that question, I didn't get to ask. So we'll do it at the beginning of the next two sessions. If you want to write down your questions, I want to make sure that all your questions get answered. Okay, good. You all have a good week, a good weekend, and I'll see you all next week.